Oh, oh, hi. Hi, guys.
Okay. It is November 12th. It is 1:03 p.m. Let's call to order the policy committee. In today's committee, we are reviewing the 700 policies, the 700 PNN updates, and there's two tabled items, which are non-school sponsored student groups and volunteers. I would predict that most of the discussion will be on volunteers, but we're going to go through each policy. Or we can, whatever. Let's do introductions. Neil English, I'm the superintendent.
Jamie DeRochers, Director of Special Ed.
Rainey Zatowski, everything.
Just kidding.
Dr. Monroe.
Dr. Monroe, principal at Berner Elementary.
David Turk, junior high principal.
Eric Hewitt, junior senior high school principal.
David Zulkowski, principal here at 10th Street Elementary School.
Aaron Schutz, policy committee member from the school board.
And Roger Pagoda, school board member.
Okay. Thank you all for attending. I think my suggestion is either we sort of, if you looked at the 700 policies, we're talking about facilities, gifts, sanitary management. The 701 to 717 are policies that we already have. That's just like sort of minor definition upgrades. I can either go through each of them individually, or if there's one specifically that you want to pull out, we can pull those up and sort of discuss those things. How would the team here like to proceed?
I think maybe just, announce it, and if there's any changes that need to be made, maybe you don't need to read through them, but if there's any updates that need to be made to them, if not, just stamp them and move on. If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, then my suggestion, well, I wouldn't say there's no updates. There's just minor updates in 701 facilities planning, 702 gifts, grants, and donations, 703 sanitary management, maintenance, 704, 706 property records, 705 facilities and workplace safety, 706 property records, 708 lending of equipment and books, 709 building security, 710 use of facilities by staff, 715 use of the fax machine. Got to have a policy for the fax machine. And 716 integrated pest management and 717 cellular telephones.
Just to be clear, 705 is not actually part of this first batch. It's in the second batch.
But it is a pretty routine update. That's basically saying we have to manage our facilities. I'm supposed to give you updates and proactive thinking, similar to the board meeting on Monday in terms of enrollment, in terms of what the needs are going to be in the next 5-10 years. We've managed a lot of that through our master planning studies as well, but that's basically that policy. Is there any of those policies that are of unique interest to anybody? After I know that you all reviewed them already. These are very short policies and there's no groundbreaking changes, just like tiny little definition changes where, one word is highlighted. Okay. Hearing none, I say we sort of push those policies through to first reading for our next board meeting and then focus on the PNN updates, which have much more significant change. So let's start with those if everybody's okay with that, starting with policy 7021, which is crowdfunding. Let me pull this up.
Quick question. When you say push first reading at next meeting, will we do that in December or will we push it to January?
I think January board, I'm thinking January probably for first
That's
reading.
fine.
Okay, because we'll do third reading in December for the batch that we currently have.
Yep.
Okay, just, I wanted to be clear on
Does
it.
that work? That way we kind of push those other ones through and we start with a new board with the
Yeah.
700 series. Does that work?
Just figure out who's on this committee. You know?
Yeah, exactly. There's gonna be new people. Okay, let me pull up crowdfunding. Okay, the primary function of this policy is for things like GoFundMe. I can't think of one time in the almost 10 years I've been here that we've done this, but this is a policy that puts some it puts some safeguards in place for those kinds of, maybe, let's say hypothetically, we get to the point where we have to do a fundraising campaign for the delta of the lights. This puts some documentation, some safeguards in place to make sure that those, we're doing a good job of like sort of vetting out a crowdfunding source. It goes through the administration, we're looking at it, we're approving it. Creating eligibility for, foundations or student sponsored groups or parent organizations. It defines crowdfunding. And we have the delegation of responsibility going through the superintendent and the director of finance and operations.
So I have a question.
So do I.
Sure.
So when I read this, it said if it was sponsored, so, the other principals know Horseman always sends out
Mhm.
if you're doing it's donors choose.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do our teachers have to do approval before they do that since it's through, like if they have to do it for that company to sponsor it?
Explain a little more about what they're doing.
So Donors Choose is, Tina, I'll jump in, that's.
Yeah,
'cause I
go
was gonna have
ahead.
the exact same question. Donors Choose is like a GoFundMe for, I don't know if it was designed for education, but I think that's what most educators use. Like I know we've used it here. We've used it for years. I mean, when Julie and Liz were new, that's what they did to build their classroom libraries for the reading classes. Susie has used it for some science class things, but yeah, like Horace Mann always sponsors that, and they do matching funds. So if you generate $250 for whatever it is that you were looking to get, they then match it for $250.
Right. So I think.
Yeah, you're right, Tina. I don't think we've ever gone through a formal
Right.
Approval of
approval
that.
process. Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, would it be good for upper administration, for the superintendent, just to make sure that, we have some guidelines around that? In
I would
terms
say
of-
yes, and here's why. At the same reason that we look at grants, because now the GoFundMe's or the Donors Choose are typically for small amounts, few $100s here, few $100s there, but we also don't want people funding things that then that add to our bottom line, things that are gonna have to be, that are gonna cost us. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Things that have to be
Or say that
maintained.
we get
Things have to be
equipment,
maintained, yeah.
we have to get equipment that's gonna be maintained by the district, that has to be inventoried, that has to be kept up with. And
Yeah.
I think just like grants, for those that don't know, Aaron and Roger, to do a grant, there's an approval process. It has to go through Sheila and myself. It has to align with the strategic plan, district initiatives, and we have to do some forward thinking in terms of like future costs to the district. So there's like an approval process, just to make sure everybody's sitting down, considering the grant, like thinking about its long-term efficacy, thinking about how much it will cost. This is similar, if you want to do something like this, at least 30 days, you present it, there's an approval process, we can talk about what it is and just make sure there's some scrutiny over crowdfunding so that it's just not the Wild West.
Question, Eric, would technically MUN does GoFundMe? So is that the same thing or is it considered different?
Well, yeah, they do it for what, the
The
Rome trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so
So all of that would just go through a little bit more oversight and a little bit more of an approval process. We made the check marks here fairly, broad,
Mm-hmm.
but I personally think it's a good idea to have just another layer of oversight over some of these items, and make sure the websites are good, make sure Kim Getz is looking at the websites and the fine print and all of that other stuff. So that's crowdfunding.
And we can still create that form for those groups to use via Comply.
Yeah, we can create a
It's like
form
we're
and
gonna
comply,
create
just like with grants where people can, apply, it goes through an approval process. The principals are looking at it, I'm looking at it, and it goes through a couple layers of approval before just doing it. So I think that's just, I just think that's proactive and conscious oversight. Any questions there?
So I know this isn't part of the policy, so we should probably create a form like we did for the grants.
Yes.
Yeah, we're actually updating the grant form for the Comply site anyway, so we could probably do them both at once and make sure we've got all of our bases covered.
Okay.
Because
Could it be
Sheila
in
wants to update the
addition-
grant one.
could it be in addition to the fundraising form, or so you're not creating a new form because it is fundraising?
Well, so I think internally, yeah, and I think externally too, when we move to the volunteer module and boosters end up using some of those fundraising forms, I think that falls into the same thing. So yeah, it could probably be a attachment or a piece of evidence or, but part of it. We just have to figure out how we want it to look on that form.
All right. Any other discussion there? Good discussion, everybody. Okay, next, we included 705 facilities and workplace safety, but let's just pull that one up just to be safe. So one separate. Let's go on to 707. Use of school facilities. Share. Sorry, it's kind of annoying that. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is just our facilities use form. There's some updates here in 2025 in terms of the P and N. For those that don't know, there's people that rent out our facilities. We have a cost structure for those facilities. I didn't click polling places because we're not a polling place and I don't want to go back to us being a polling place. I'm very happy that, the elections office heard our needs and wants for moving the polling place to a location that doesn't hold students. So, basically this isn't much different. It just kind of delineates rental fees, evidence and documentation, and making sure that there's an oversight process where it's not conflicting with our student organizations or our school groups and our, what we have to do in school takes priority. Dr. Monroe, do you have a question here?
I just had the part where it says right there, number 4, all activities must terminate and all individuals and commute must exit premises by 10. Can we
Yeah.
change it to an hour before the last custodial shift? Because there was a time that, like, my building's not even open till 11, like Dr. Z's. And at one point, mine closed at 8.
Well, 10 o'clock is an hour before your last custodial shift. right?
No.
Wait,
No, it is
That's-
Wait.
not.
She's got a point. It should be 1 hour before last custodial shift
okay,
ends,
okay.
is really what it should be, because her building, It's changed probably 3 times in the last 2 years, because it
Yes.
used to be,
Okay, that's good.
yeah.
Rainey.
Yep, I got it.
You
Time
got
needs to
that?
be an hour before last custodial
Okay,
shift.
all right, let's make is everybody
Because
okay
what if
with that
there's a
change?
holiday and they're short, or what if it's a day, then
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
working
no,
daylight or something? So,
that's a great suggestion, thank you.
Yep,
All right,
I'll
we'll make
I'll
note
the
of that.
change, yeah.
Is this,
Go ahead.
is this for this is for non-school sponsored activities?
Yes, this is for like, obviously, this isn't for
No,
things
This
that we're doing.
this is all activities.
Well, that's why I'm asking. We need to clarify that. So
So are you saying that,
number 4,
I
sorry.
know, but are you saying that for athletics, they stay till 11 o'clock? When custodians are done? And do you guys have a time frame that they're done by?
Well, Dave.
We've had basketball here till 10 o'clock. I know that.
So that would still
So-
work.
I get that, but
I know what he's saying, like, what if you guys have a dance and it goes till,
Oh, true.
yeah, like
Is
that's
that
why
what
I'm
your
asking, like,
concern
is that
is,
number
Dave?
4 just meant for someone renting the facility?
this policy to me,
This reads for.
the way I read it was for non-school
That's what
Right.
activities.
Yes.
Right, yeah, non-school sponsored purposes.
Yeah. right
Okay, so
here.
then, yeah.
Okay, well, that's why I'm
So then
just
that
double
works,
checking.
right?
I mean, that is still a consideration for when we have to use the facilities, Dave. I mean, it's not like, what you're saying is germane to the use of facilities, but not, it wouldn't be if we're renting it out to, I think, didn't we rent space out at one point to like the Greek? It was like a Greek festival here.
Well, the only people we really rent space is, RAA and Z. They're usually done before an hour before custodians. And then, Oakmont Dads, and they're done an hour before custodians. So,
Yeah.
or at least a half an hour.
I guess, so this is where I'm going, and I know this isn't a thing right now, but just in general, like if someone were to want to rent a gymnasium area out or anything else, and they're paying for it, technically, they would also be paying for the custodian covering that event, correct?
Correct.
So what I'm
That's-
getting
that
at is
says
we may,
here.
instead of putting, we may want to have a notation in there, instead of just limiting the fact that we could potentially charge someone to use a space, we may want to put like a notation about something with like overtime pay.
That's actually on that's on the facility usage form that an outside person uses.
Yeah,
And it
Okay.
does say it right there for the extra custodial fees.
it's right here. And yeah, if they're coming in on the weekend, it's time and a half.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's part of the procedures. It's
I-
not, it's not a policy here, but,
Okay.
that's this fee schedule part here.
No, I
So-
get it. That's fine.
What,
I'm not making it difficult. I'm just thinking
I'm
like
just saying,
if
keep
you can, well,
talking.
no, because I've done facilities before. So like if you're gonna have someone who wants to pay to rent a facility for some reason, you don't want to limit their time if they're gonna be paying for it. Because the hourly rate, it's an hourly rate sort of thing. That's fine. I mean, I think,
Suggesting to keep for more,
no, I just think if they're gonna pay,
So you're saying we'd have to be careful how we phrase the end of exit school premises by? What
yeah, I
if it
mean, or you
says
can leave
agreed
it and then maybe you
upon-
could
what if it's
add,
like
maybe
agreed
you add a
upon-
line. I'm sorry, Randy, go ahead.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, what if it's something like school premises by agreed upon contract or something?
Exit school. Well, yeah, you can leave at 10 o'clock. So I would say maybe if you want to leave that, maybe add a notation afterwards of like, or an agreed upon time. Something extra. That's all.
That's
I'm not thinking of like, but just so everyone's on the same page, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
like
maybe-
future,
maybe
this
the-
is a policy, right? So you want to have stuff in there for the future.
Yeah.
Like if for some reason someone did want to rent the facility, you wouldn't want to be like, well, we can only give it to you until this time. It's like, well, we'll pay for it. It's like, we can only, but it only says this time though.
Right, so
That's all.
maybe the students wanna do like a thon, where it's like an all-night
That's not, that doesn't
fundraising
count.
thing or
That's,
something,
that's
right?
us.
Oh,
You
that's
give to
us.
state,
That's
state
us.
differently.
Yeah,
Yeah, still.
maybe. Okay, let's
Yeah.
just put that little notation on. I think that.
I would just pull a
that
notation, that's
covers
all.
that. Any other discussion?
How do you want me to put
I
the
went-
notation?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to know how you guys want me to write the end of that sentence.
Except for agreed upon, except for. What did you say, Dave?
I looked
yeah,
at
or-
other, go ahead, David Turk.
No, good. No, Dr. Z.
I looked at other districts on this and they list different group classifications. I'm gonna just send it in the chat so you could see. This was Pine Richlands actually, but you see how they defined like each group?
We have that on the other contract form, that, so that's one of my other questions is, do those, all of those things need to be included in the policy piece? Because on the contract, we state, please refer to our policy. But
Right.
the page has all of those things. I'm just trying to,
I think the policy can be more broad.
that's
And
what
we
I'm,
can have
Okay.
procedures that, like administrative regulations, just like our ARs. That can be a little bit more, granular. But I think that notation, Dave, go back to the notation at the end of this on number 4. Unless agreed upon by. Dave Turk. What did you?
Yeah, sorry. 10 PM or an agreed upon time. Something just nice and simple.
Okay.
Is everyone good with that?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And Dr. Z, thank you. I know, yeah, most places do have that like sort of cost structure.
to see Fox Chapel, it's crazy,
Including us.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Service animals in school is fairly straightforward. Does anybody want to talk about anything about service animal?
Does anybody have a horse?
I was just excited about seeing mini ponies on there, that's all. I'm a big.
Oh
my
fan.
gosh.
Well,
That was fantastic.
I mean, I think this policy
it's cool.
is set in place probably, Jamie, because, there, some service animals
Yeah.
can be incorporated in a student special ed plan. And so I think that's why that is my assumption of why this came through the PNN updates. Like you need some language to encapsulate those kinds of situations.
Yeah.
And that's what the service animal language is about. But does anybody want to talk service animals specifically? Okay, let's do remember last time we did non-school sponsored student groups? And we were kind of discussing the definition of a non-school sponsored group. Currently, I have some information for you for non-school sponsored groups. Let me just pull it up though.
Non-school sponsor school initiative.
We currently don't have any non-school sponsored groups. But we did a little research and they're like political organizations. It could be Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or things of this nature, or a student group, really that's not, particularly connected to any sort of, school related strategic plan or policy or anything like that. It just sets some guidelines for those kinds of groups and the authority they have and what our staff should be doing if our staff are involved in with the supervision of those groups. So, does anybody have any questions there? This is a little bit of for us, it's not very germane to anything that we're currently doing, but I also think it's probably good to have some language in case, something different or an actual, or this occurs at some point in the future. But I don't see any issues with the language or anything like that. I think the issue last time was that we were like, what is that? And, that's what that is.
Tina and David, correct me if I'm wrong, the only time we've even come close to this is recently when Girl Scouts asked if they could rent some of our space to have a meeting, and we declined. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And for board members, the reason we declined was because we already have established Girl Scout troops in the community, and so we did not want to take from them. But we did permit them to put their flyers out.
Makes sense.
Where did you go? Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with this.
Okay. I don't know where you went. Oh, here he
There's
comes.
also some delineation between how we fund those groups, like outsourcing those. I was looking at the sheet that I was writing down and I forgot my notes. I forgot the notes that I was taking on this specific
We took care of it already.
specific policy, but like, a lot of times these aren't funded directly by the schools. There are organizations that have a 501c, like a booster group or something like that. So even the funding of these organizations typically are outside, outside of the school financial system. So, okay. Any questions here?
No.
Okay, finally, volunteers. I think this is gonna require the most discussion. We have been talking about, even in the board meeting this week, we talked a little bit about, volunteers and, certifications and, clearances and those kinds of things. So,
This is a never ending discussion.
yeah. Okay. Let's talk volunteers. Let me share my screen for the volunteer policy. So, you all learned of, a volunteer portal that you're hopefully going to approve on Monday that will allow us to kind of be a better repository for certifications and clearances and things of this nature. This policy, it does a really good job sort of delineating different levels of different groups. We've added some things and I want to go through this particular policy in a little more detail if you're okay with that. First is just this language here is just, legal language that really aligns with, remember they made those Title IX changes, and then a million policies that had this in, we had to update those policies. So, okay. We put school board director in here, for background checks and clearances. School board, feel free to weigh in here. But
If they work with students.
if they work with students. So we tried to delineate in the definitions what an adult is, certifications, volunteers, what is, it defines school board directors. And then this is really what we want to go over here.
So before we press on,
Oh,
hi, sorry. My
Hi.
fear with the delineating between the school board director is that we won't be volunteering in our school board director capacity.
It's actually a safety measure to encompass, because we've been asked on more than one occasion when school board directors are at. There's two things that happen here, Antonio, is that there's an old rule of thumb where people always believe that school board directors, when they volunteered and were elected, already had their clearances on file, okay?
Right.
PSBA states that although it is not required by code, it is suggested.
Right. So is the
So-
school going to cover them though?
We don't cover any
Because-
volunteer clearances as it is.
No, but I'm saying like, is the,
What do you mean cover them?
For
the,
the,
so
most of
is
them
the
are free.
district going to pay for the clearances that the school board directors would need to obtain?
they're free.
Yeah, they're free. It would be independent.
It falls, see, it says if serving as an independent volunteer.
Okay, well, let's go over the classifications. I think it delineates like the sort of different levels, okay? This is what we're trying to build within the volunteer portal of Comply. We had some discussion about this at the board as well. The first is an independent volunteer, which is a volunteer that works under the general direction and supervision of a teacher or administrator. This type of volunteer provides direct services to students on behalf of the school, may have unsupervised contact with students. This is like, we looked at a lot of policies. They have some examples of a booster officer, a tutor, a chaperone, an activity advisor, a library aide.
This is where we also discussed that we would add PTO dance as
Oh,
well.
yeah, like
And we would also
PTO
add,
dance monitor.
And
to
book
be
fair.
really specific, book fair, things like that. Then we have this assistant volunteer. And they work directly under the supervision or direction of a teacher or administrator. And does not have direct volunteer. We talked a little bit about this, remember in the past with the sticks, the people at the football game, like that have
No.
the first down
No.
sticks.
They're paid.
they're
That's
paid.
different. They're not volunteers.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
down in number 3.
Yeah, they're paid.
Okay, then we
They're
have
paid.
volunteer coaches and sponsors. We have a bunch of these people as well. And these obviously are people that have direct interaction with students, choreographers, musicians, athletic trainers, the athletic teams. And that is a much more comprehensive clearances. We asked for a lot more. They have to do a TB test and complete mandated reporter training, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the 3 levels. Let's talk about that first. Any discussion there?
So we, one, are gonna wanna say the 3 classifications of volunteers are then,
Yes.
rather than,
Rainy, yeah,
Oh, yep,
yeah. There's 3
I
here.
forgot we added the third to explain.
And so the rest just kind of explains, how, we're responsible for keeping track of. Rainey said you had like 500, over 500.
Almost 500.
Almost 500 clearances for volunteers and things like that in the district right now, as of today. She's auditing it currently. She loves that. She's enjoying herself. It's actually been a good process to sort of audit these things and make sure that, and that's the whole point of this volunteer portal. We want to make sure we're doing this right. We have everybody's documentation. We take away barriers. It's easy for people to turn these things into us, and then we keep them under close supervision. Okay.
can we go back up to the red line section?
Number 3.
That, but also, okay, yeah, that part, yeah. So I think I'm fine with the different classifications. I still think I have an issue with the school board director piece. One, because state law does not require school board directors to have these clearances. They just require volunteers to have them. And the way that this reads, and or the public could see it, is that we have to have them to serve as school board directors.
I
So
think
you-
we should have them, 100%.
I don't disagree, but I think I think it also should be a conversation for the new board members as well.
Why?
Well, because it affects them. They just got elected and now they're going to have to obtain clearances. And some of these do require,
Yeah, but if you're opposed to getting clearances, I don't know that I'd want to serve on a board with you. So that's like a,
well, it doesn't matter. You don't have to serve on that, or they don't have to have the clearances to serve on the board. It's
I'm
not
saying we
required
should
by
have
law.
clearances.
They don't.
We should, but they don't have to have them.
Then they don't
By
have to
law.
be on the board.
Well, but
It
You
says
do
only
see
if they're gonna
though,
work
it's-
with students.
It's just a definition. It does say that if they're serving as an independent volunteer, volunteer coach or sponsor role. So it
right,
does say
so
if
that's
it-
already, so it's already covered elsewhere is what I'm saying.
Okay,
I don't know
so
why we're delineating school board directors.
we added it in there because we've been asked, well, you're a good example. You've helped with Model UN.
Yeah,
And the assumption was someone had asked me, oh, school board members volunteer. And I said, well, they volunteer for the board. And so the question came up about clearances. I don't have clearances for you,
but I
But-
don't volunteer as a board member.
but so it was more of a. public can
I
see-
just volunteer.
So, but as a
Ken
volunteer,
Kubistek,
Definitely have clearances.
Ken Kubistek texts me and says, will you help out with Mod UN? That's
But you're
not,
volunteering with the school, even though, even outside of being, like, I had to make sure I have my clearances to be an announcer at soccer games.
I mean,
Right.
I've seen Antonio wandering around in an open house. There's students there. That's like,
well, that's not the
Definitely.
same though.
but I mean, like, I have kids in the school, so I would want to know that the people that are wandering around the halls have their clearances. Like, that's
Correct.
important to me as a parent. So like, whatever, you know. I definitely understand why this is being added. I mean, it's being added in because we have board members who are walking around the school.
That's
Well,
not why it's
People
added.
wanna
It's
make-
That's, and
added
that's
in
not,
just because
that's exactly not it, Roger.
it's added in.
Okay.
This is here, I mean, it does sort of like, I guess it does speak to that, but this language is in a number of policies, so it's up to the team to decide whether or not it's here or it's not here. It can be here,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be here. Some school districts have it, some school districts don't have it. When we looked at this policy in a lot of detail, we looked at a bunch of other policies. This is really important to us because we are literally in the process of like this new comply system, we're updating things and we're trying to get this right. So we took a bunch of different policies, we looked at them and we tried to like, encapsulate as much detail as we could just to make sure that we're in really good shape as we like roll out this new program. So that's all this is. We can discuss whether it should be in there or it shouldn't be in there, and that's why we're here, but
Can we put a sentence on volunteer to say, including but not limited to, a volunteer is not a school employee, but may be considered, and then list out, and school board director can be one of those defined volunteers, right?
You mean add it as an example down here in one of these three
Oh,
areas?
no, I was saying like,
No, he's
right
saying under
for the
word
definition of volunteer, a
Up here?
volunteer is not
Oh,
a school
here.
employee, yes, but may be considered,
Oh, shoot, sorry, guys.
and then have it, and have school board director as one of them. Because also the way that it's written is, unless the school board director is serving as an independent volunteer or a volunteer coach / sponsor, they don't have to have the clearances. So again, it goes back to the classification of volunteer. So it's not specific of the school board director. It's dependent upon what type of volunteer they are doing and or being.
Okay, so
And-
what language would you suggest down here in this volunteer section?
So it
Let
would
me
be,
write it down.
at the second sentence, it would be a volunteer is not a school employee, comma, but rather may include,
Not
then-
rather, just but may include. You don't need the word rather,
But may include.
but may include.
yeah.
And so what would be on that list? Board. Board,
Uh,
school board.
And you can use the rest of the examples above. So, a school board director, a parent or guardian, an adult resident, or other individual who is, or other individual or independent contractor who,
Nope, that's different. Contractors are different. They're required to have clearances.
oh, so then don't add in independent contractor then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Roger, I don't disagree with you. I'm happy to have my clearances. I don't disagree with you. I mean, open house is different because all the adults aren't coming in with clearances. There's
But
going to
there's
be like,
there's a different, correct, but the optics are different, right? Like we're talking about the optics of it.
I agree, but theoretically, and Neil, you can consult with Falco, but I do believe theoretically, like if we put it in as our policy that it's required, technically a school board director could sue our district because it's not required by law to serve as a school board director.
Okay, well, then they
Like
can.
you can't like infringe on someone's.
Safe, whatever.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm saying you can't infringe on someone's constitutional rights to serve in an elected role.
It's
I
The
think
only
not because
requirement-
we're making a big deal about the dance program and door monitors.
right, like, this is the
But
same.
we can't ask people who are serving the public on behalf of our students who are in the buildings with our students
We
to have
can
clearances.
in the capacity that they're like volunteering, but we shouldn't be doing it just in the simple form of just holding that title, because one, again, it goes back to a constitutional right to hold an elected position, and that's not a requirement by law. And then two, we're not having direct contact with students by ourselves in our official capacities.
I have a question. I hear what you're saying. Wouldn't this definition here, if we took the parentheses out, right? Basically, it says, if you are serving in these capacities, if you're serving as a volunteer coach role, if you're serving in these, then it is required by law to have them, right? That's all that this is saying, does that cover that? My question is, legally, does that cover that? You know what I mean? It's not saying you have to, it's just saying, if you serve here, you do have to. If you serve in these.
But it's not particular to a school board director is what I'm saying. So it's disingenuous to even have that. We are not required by law as a school. I don't have to have them just to be a school board director.
I don't think
do
it's saying
if I'm a
that.
volunteer.
Guys, I think I'm gonna pop in here because I think we're talking in circles. I think at the very beginning of this conversation, it was stated that there was a misconception amongst the community that school board members were doing things and didn't need their clearances. So that's why we added the definition. The definition to me clearly says you only need to do it if you're working with students as an independent or volunteer coach.
Correct.
What if we started that with the parentheses and Ned had the rest? So what if we started that saying if serving as an independent volunteer or volunteer coach / sponsor role, then we had the rest. But
Move this last sentence.
You could even put it at the beginning and
Just trying
take
to
the
think.
parentheses off. Right.
But then why wouldn't, so then why wouldn't we just include it under volunteer?
Because of that
We don't have a-
misconception
we
that
don't
was
have a-
originally brought up at the beginning of the whole conversation.
Do we
This,
have a
I think that
specific?
the whole purpose of this is to clear up the misconception that school board members don't have to, that they can just come in and do things when they want.
But, well, but that is a misconception I think that we aren't articulating then concretely here, is that school board members do not have to have these clearances unless they are working with children by themselves. If any of
You
us
can
come
rephrase
into
the
that,
sentence then
when-
for school
when
board
Neil-
director.
when Neil walks us around that high school and he walks around all the new school board directors, they don't have to have clearances just to be walked around by Neil. Now, if
Because they're
Neil
visitors.
leaves them alone, and is not in the room, then they have to have clearances.
Right, doesn't that delineate here or no?
But I'm saying,
They would be an assistant, they would be an assistant volunteer. They really wouldn't even be a volunteer because they'd be with me, right? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to encapsulate what you're saying in the language of the policy itself. We want to operationalize the language.
and so I'm saying, why don't we put it under the volunteer part rather than making a specific defined place for school board directors?
Because, well, that's what Jamie's saying is, I don't know if you can hear her, is that because it was brought to our attention more than once,
This-
and the question, this would actually help protect our school board members to show this is what, this is what that they don't need it. This is what we
You actually
require,
don't need it for a lot of, you don't need it all the time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But, guys, it doesn't. It doesn't matter, this doesn't matter that much to me. This, like I said, this is part of some policies. It doesn't matter where it is, if this is something you want to discuss in front of the full board, we could do that. We can sort of bring this actual one to the board or highlight it in the next board meeting or something like that, if you want to have a more broad discussion about it. It doesn't, yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of this is to just memorialize it and sort of clear up any sort of confusion about anybody, not just a board member, a visitor, an adult, everybody, so it's really clear in terms of like.
We just don't define a parent or guardian or adult resident or other individual here. So that's why I'm saying I don't know why
Because
it
the
can't
optics
be.
asking questions. That's why this got called out. It got pulled out because there's because
I get the optics, but you don't want to be disingenuous or false in those optics either. Like,
I don't think I was false with the way it was stated.
it is false. It's not, we are not required to have them. Yes, it's working with children, but it's not just school board directors. Pennsylvania law doesn't say school board directors must have them to work with students. It says that adult individuals over the age of 18 must have them to work with individuals or with students.
So do you?
So it is wrong the way that it's worded, and you can ask Falco, he's our legal counsel, I'm fine with that. It makes sense, but it is wrong.
Do we want to move it under volunteer or what do we want to do here, guys? It doesn't. Do we want to bring it to the board? Do we want to move it? Where's the consensus here?
Makes
I
sense to
go
put it under the
through it.
consider.
Are we
We'll
just
talk
stuck
about
on
it.
language that it says state law requires? Is that where we're stuck? That first sentence is there?
It's more that it's just, to me, it's the whole thing, but
Why couldn't it be and this may just be Pollyanna of me, but it's a good best practice that we do our due diligence and we ask the school board directors have clearances on file. What's to say we're at a meeting in one of the schools and one of us walks out in the hallway and there's kids?
I don't disagree. But I think that we should loop in Falco for requiring all school board members because it's not a law. And we are not bound by this like policy. The policy is set for the school district.
I don't think this says that all school members have to have clearances. I think it just says you have to have clearances if you're serving in these roles. I don't think it specifically says everybody has to have them. If you're just coming to a meeting, right, and you're sitting and voting and doing those kinds of things, obviously you're not gonna have interaction with students and in that role for sure. That being said, I think in a small community, people do ask you guys to do stuff. I mean, I've seen lots of board members doing lots of different things in this district. I think that's normal. I think they just like, hey, can you watch this? Can you help me do this? And I've seen all of you guys doing different things, but,
Right,
yeah,
but we're not school board directors when we do those things. Erin isn't VP when she does those things. I'm not school board director Antonio when I do those things. And you have asked us specifically in the rest of the board, because we're not authorized by the board to act in our official capacity in any which way. So we are truly just individual volunteers. It's like speaking on behalf of the board. Like,
so that's
we
why you
don't-
think that should be down here. Some of this language should be down here and number this one, this highlighter one.
yeah, because I think that it should absolutely include school board directors who are volunteering or serving in a volunteer aspect, but we're not specifically, denoting school board members have to, because again, this policy it's for the district and it's not binding on school board directors. Your eligibility to serve in your elected role is not one way or the other in favor or against our policy, meaning even if our policy says it, that doesn't stop Roger from serving as a school board director in Riverview if he doesn't have those clearances and volunteers, because his legal requirements to serve as a volunteer is to be a member of the community and to be duly elected and to be 18, right? Those are the only legal requirements. And so that's why I'm saying it's disingenuous, because we don't have to follow the board policy.
I don't think we have a board policy that
Right.
says as far as I know, it says board members have their clearances. I think this is the only place that I know of that sort of pulls that out. But if you want to put it down here, that's fine. Whatever you all think is best is fine by me. Or take it out.
I think you would serve the purpose if you put school board director under the visitor line.
Okay. It could include
I
school.
think I could see a place for it to be in both places.
Yeah, I could see school board
Yes.
under visitor and volunteer.
Okay, so,
I get the point of what's being said, but I think that school board director, that verbiage needs to be in there somewhere. It doesn't need to be its own definition, but it needs to be under those two areas. That's my opinion. It should be listed under those two areas so that it covers if I come in as a visitor. If I come into the school as not coming in as Erin the parent, if I come in as the school board member, I need to have clearances.
so you're
If I
saying denote
asked
that
to
in visitor
volunteer
and,
to watch the door at dance, I am a visitor, I am a volunteer who's also a school board member, but I have my clearances. I have to be defined in both places so that it's covered. That would be my suggestion.
Well, you only have to have them as a visitor if you're being left alone with kids.
If I were to be to go into the school and they said, Erin, can you come speak to this class? And the teacher leaves the room, I better have my clearances. If I am asked to come in and read a book in the library and the teacher leaves, I would rather be covered than say,
But you do realize though that it's not us who's getting in trouble. The board policy isn't for us, it is for the school. So it's the employee that's going to get in trouble for leaving us alone with the
I don't
children.
want to see anybody get in trouble. I want to do the right thing and have my clearances and be above the board. That's it.
It's just exactly.
I
it's
don't
just doing the
understand
right
why I
thing.
wouldn't want to do that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying is it's the teacher and or the administration that's going to be held liable for us not having those clearances than us is all I'm saying. So we're putting off liability to our administration is what I'm getting at. If we don't have those clearances, you're not suing Roger or Aaron or Antonio. You're suing the administration because they are the ones who are supposed to follow board policy as it's set forth.
Why in the world would I want the district to get sued if I can be responsible and get my
Right.
clearances
But
and do
you
the right
can't-
thing?
But you can do the right thing, but you're not required to follow the board policy is what I'm saying. The board policy is set so that the administration down has their marching orders and has their direction. These are rules for administration down. So I'm saying, I agree with you, Aaron, is what I'm saying is that you're not going to be the one in trouble. If we put that in a policy, who doesn't follow that policy that's an employee of the district is the one that's in trouble. So if I go into Ken Kubistek's class, he walks out and he didn't check with Rainey, Neil, Eric, or David to ensure that I had my clearance first. It's Ken getting in trouble if he did check with those people and they didn't get back to him and or they didn't have it on file or something, they could be in trouble. But we as the board members don't get in trouble because this policy isn't for us, it's for the district. So that's what I'm saying is I agree with all of you. I agree we should have the clearances. But this doesn't impute anyone but the district. The district is the only one who's required to follow this policy.
So let's get back to the language. We're adding board member in the visitor and volunteer section. Taking this part out, adding board member.
Yep.
In these two sections.
Yes.
That's what you guys are saying? Is that consensus?
I agree to that.
I
Everyone?
agree to that, and I think
All
we
right.
just have a conversation about it after. But yeah, that's my biggest fear is it's not making us in trouble if we don't have those clearances.
We will make some changes and then when we bring it to first reading, we'll have some of those changes. Maybe we'll make those changes, we'll send it out to the group ahead of time. So you can take a look at it before we put it out on a board agenda, just because we had a lot of conversation about it. So we'll make sure everybody's okay with that language. And at least by email, you can say, hey, what if we change this or that? Or so we'll make some of those changes, we'll give it a go.
And before that, can we loop in Falco to give us that legal, like, because maybe
course.
I'm not explaining it well enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think it's our board's intention to hold our district liable. I think it's our board's intention to hold ourselves liable for having those clearances. And by putting us specifically in this policy, the only people that have to follow this policy are the district and employees. And so we're holding our district liable rather than our school board directors liable. And that, I think, is counterintuitive to what we are looking to do.
Dr. Z, you have a comment?
Yeah. First of all, I want to assure everybody, since at the board meeting, it felt like the 10th Street PTO is harboring bad people in the lobby, and that is not the case at all. They have no issues with getting clearances. And that, to me, I get that because it is, Antonio said, they're not under like a district person. So this is the example I'll use. And Antonio, you tell me if sort of thinking. Like, and Rainey, you and I have had discussions about like book fair. All the teachers go to the book fair. There's parents there. We tell the teachers to stay there. It's like if somebody comes to read, we tell the teachers you can't leave that room. Okay. So if you go on a field trip and it's in one gigantic room and there's no possibility of a parent taking the kid out of that room, they really don't need a clearance. But if they go like to Beechwood Farms, they're in individual groups, they're by themselves with kids, they need to have clearances. So what I'm saying is we could write a whole bunch of different things here. And it is true. It's on the teacher or whoever has invited that guest in. They should know that guest can't be alone because they're under the volunteer. So I can't leave that parent alone in this room. Do you know what I mean? And they are really accountable for it. Whoever it
Yeah,
is.
and they're the only ones though. And
Correct.
that's why I'm hesitant to say school board director, because I agree, Dr. Z, it's just the employee that's liable. And that's, again, not our intention to make the employee more liable by also then specifying school board directors and things like that. It's to hold ourselves liable. But we're not doing that by adding us in to this.
I completely hear I hear what you're saying. Like these rules don't apply to us. They're, we're the board and everything below us is who these rules apply to. That's the policies. But, I think what we're missing here is that we have community members who are concerned. That's why this was brought up. So that, like, we can sit and talk about the language and the legalese and all that stuff, but like, the overarching thing here is that we need the community members to feel at ease with whomsoever is in the building at any such time, right? So like, if it happens, like where we move this makes absolutely no difference to me. Like, I do like the idea of our parents and our community feeling safe with the people that are in the building. So we just have to figure out how the hell to do that. Like, because you're right, Antonio, this does not apply to us. They can put it there, but it doesn't really have any weight. But and like I keep saying it in the interest of optics, if people have some such issue, we have to figure out how to approach that and how to quell those, because apparently this isn't going to do it.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, like, for the because I appreciate you guys, because I'm not trying to like come off annoying or whatever, but I'm trying to be realistic in the fact of I don't want it to be Rainey, Neil, or Sheila, or Dr. Z, like anyone in our school that gets in trouble because a school board director doesn't have their clearance. Specifically, a school board director. It should be that our employees understand that any
Right.
volunteer is required to have their things, and then that includes school board directors, absolutely. But us not having us, you know what I mean? Like me failing to like renew my clearances and get them to Rainey, if the way that this is written and it's spelled out, well, Rainey or Neil are going to be the only ones getting in trouble for me not providing my renewed clearances to them, not me.
No, right. And obviously, like if you and I are acting as volunteers, like if you work for Mr. Kubistek, or if I go as a soccer coach or whatever, right? Like if we're volunteering, however, the public doesn't see that. They still see us as board members.
Right.
They're not, there's no like cognitive dissonance there. Like they see us
There's
as
no
board.
separation. Absolutely.
Right. And so like, I guess, I mean, I don't have any point to prove there other than like, I totally hear you. Like I have the same thing, right? Because like we are always on the board. I go to pick my kids up from school and people ask me stuff about time change and ask me about whatever. Like we're always on the board. So
Right.
like it's hard to create that separation. moving the language around is fine. And I want all of us to volunteer in this school, but like, yeah, if you're going to volunteer, I guess we just have to be mindful that we're always board members. People are going to notice us more than they're going to notice the other volunteers.
Right.
And they go, hey, we need, we got to make sure these people are covered. So like, maybe we don't put it in as a school board director, but like, I guess say straight out, Antonio, if you're going to volunteer, get your damn clearances. And that's like,
Right.
that solves the whole problem, right? Because you're right, this language doesn't make sense, right? Like it's off.
And I think we could also put it in to our governance, our zero
Yeah, right.
policies, because that is the only place that is relegated specifically for board governance. So those actually are the only policies that directly apply to board directors. Now, still, you can't technically hold us liable. Like if someone doesn't comply with that, you're not getting kicked off the board. But I think if we're talking about an optic standpoint, that would be a good place to put them in. That if a board director is volunteering in any type of capacity, whether it be individual or an official capacity, and that they should be left alone with children, they must have their clearances on school file. And I think that would be an appropriate place to put it in, because that is board governance and that's specific to the board directors.
Okay, so action steps for me. I'm going to consult with Falco, add some language specific to board for visitor volunteer. And then I'll look at the zero series and see if there's an opportune place or a meaningful place in that series to like sort of, maybe place some language in there, and we'll put that as like old business, but we'll discuss that at our next policy meeting in April. Is that good for everybody?
Yep. And then on number 1, under the classifications, the first student is misspelled. The S and the T are reversed. Direct services
Oh, right
to
there,
students.
students on behalf, yeah, right there, in red.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Just so you guys as board members are aware, anytime somebody is confused about whether or not they are to have their clearances, as the volunteer coordinator for the district, my response is always, whatever you feel would protect you more than anything. That's ultimately our goal, is protecting the person as well as the student. The optics on this is correct, like what we've been talking about. And one of the very first examples that I could think of is when Ernie Tillman came back on the board. He immediately handed me my clearances because he said when he was a board member, they were required. And then the second example was that, and God rest her soul, Arlene Leffler always made it very clear to show up at open houses. And that's where the question started, was, well, wait, you have school board members attending open houses. Do they have their clearances? Because they don't have kids there. So, and some school board members do have kids in the district and some don't. So that's just to give you a background on why we were trying to be protective overall. That's always our only goal.
Yeah, ultimately, it's to get in line with what other people have and make sure we have language that protects everybody broadly. And that includes everybody, volunteers, board members, teachers, people from the community. We want to protect them. And we also, obviously, the biggest thing is we want to protect the kids and make sure we have all the documentation in order. So this is good discussion, guys. I mean, everybody's well-intentioned here. We're trying to get it right and trying to, create, broad language that offers that protection. So I appreciate that. It's good language. I got my action steps. So I'm gonna follow through on my action steps, and we'll bring maybe a 0-100 series in our next meeting. But ultimately, we got a lot done today, guys. We're done with the 700 series. We're real close to being completely finished in terms of updating every policy. We've only been doing this for a year, a little over a year. So really happy with the progress we've made overall. It's been great for the district. It's been great for us. It's been great for the administrators. It's good to just like read through the policies on a routine basis, make sure you're aware of, what we're responsible to. So thank you all for attending in the middle of the day. Appreciate it. I will post the meeting later on today on our YouTube page, and without any more discussion on policies, we open the hearing of citizens. If there's any citizens that would like to speak, please speak. Do we have any citizens here? No, I don't think so. Our next meeting, I guess, will be to be determined. Typically, we have another meeting in the spring, but we have to kind of discuss that as a group at the reorg meeting. So we'll call the next meeting TBD for now. Thank you all for attending. Thanks for your feedback, and we will see you, board members will see you Monday.
Thank you.
Everyone else, I'll see you soon.